everything wrong. And so what we see here that the Jews reject her, the men reject her, women reject her. She believes God has rejected her. And so what does Yeshua do? He gives her the honor of being the first one to take the gospel to the nations in all of history. And what happens when the fields are white in the harvest? He tells everyone, he says, look, Samaritans for 3,000 years have always worn white garments. He was pointing at the Samaritans coming in white that were about to be harvested into the kingdom. So here it is a woman, a non-Jew, who is the first one to take the gospel to the nations.
Welcome to Enfoque, everyone. Today's episode is a big one. Why the person of Jesus and the Gospels still matter. And whether you're a committed Christian, a curious skeptic, or somewhere in between, Jesus is a figure you cannot ignore. Billions call him Lord. Others call him a prophet, a teacher, or just a moral leader. But who was he really? And why do four, not one or two, four ancient books, the Gospels, continue to shape the hearts and cultures across centuries? Let's begin with the historical figure of Jesus. And contrary to popular myth, Jesus is not just a legend made up by religious people. He's one of the most well-attested figures in ancient history. Historians, both secular and religious, largely agree that Jesus of Nazareth was a Jewish preacher. He lived in first century Roman-occupied Palestine. He was crucified under Pontius Pilate, and sources outside the Bible, like Tacitus, Josephus, and Pliny the Younger, refer to him. But the most detailed accounts of his life come from the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And that makes him so remarkable. It's not just that he lived, but what he said and what he did and what people believed about him shortly after he died that makes him a totally different, special person. And today, to discuss these four ancient books, I have someone very special with me. You all know him. He's been with us many times. He's a scholar, one of my teachers, one of my favorite teachers. And that's Pastor Mark Biltz. How are you, Pastor? And welcome to Enfoque.
Hello. Thank you so much. I love being with you.
Thank you so much. I'm so blessed to have you again. And we will have you yet again and again. But today we're talking about the person of Jesus Christ and how these four ancient books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, record his life, everything that he did, everything that he said. And you are the author of the most amazing book I have ever come across. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. A friend of mine, a Hebrew scholar, he is an Israeli who grew up in Israel, and he fought in the Yom Kippur War. And in his life, he was the professor who taught Hebrew to the Jews. Just like we may have an English teacher to teach us English or a Spanish teacher, he was the Hebrew scholar to the Jewish people. And he also was a professor at at the university in Arizona. He taught Hebrew at the university in Arizona.
Right.
And anyway, he and I are good friends, and we live real close. And so he's come to know the Lord, and he's only read the Bible in Hebrew. And I start showing him the English, and he goes, wow, that's wrong, and that's wrong, and that's wrong. And then I showed him the New Testament, and he was, as a believer, but he sees things. He says, oh my goodness, this isn't right. And so he and I sat on, because I know all about the New Testament, but I don't really know the Hebrew. He has all the Hebrew and knows nothing about the New Testament. And so we got together and teamed up, and we produced the New Testament in 3 volumes. The first volume is just the Gospels, which we now have done. The second volume is all of the epistles except for Paul's. And then the third volume is all of Paul's epistles. Wow. So in the second volume, it'll be like Acts, James, Jude, Peter, 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, Revelation. And that is at the printer now. So that one, people can actually pre-order the second volume, and it'll be here in about 6 weeks to 8 weeks. And then the third volume, we're almost finished, and hopefully we'll have it around February by the time we get it done into the printer. But the Gospels is amazing. They're, as you very well know, people that know more than one language understand me better than people that just know one language. And as you know, whenever you're translating into another language, you're going to miss things. Yeah. And there was a lot missed in English or overlooked, but believe it or not, I can actually show you intentionally mistranslated words in the New Testament. Because just like our media is biased, so were the translators. If you remember, the Crusades were in the 1500s, and then we come to the early 1600s.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's also some cultural things, and you don't know what you don't know. And so we had a lot of fun where in the Gospels, we've done something no one else has ever done. We have the Gospels in Hebrew, which has been done, but we added the transliteration with English letters so anybody can pronounce the Hebrew and through that begin to learn it. And then we have the English under that, and then we have the words that we corrected in a different color. So anyone can see it and challenge us or whatever, you know. But I think today, more than anything else, people want authenticity when it comes to the fake news, the fake media. And so, for an example, I think everyone knows Jesus wasn't his real name, okay? Matter of fact, J's, the letter J doesn't exist in Hebrew. It doesn't exist in Greek. And the J didn't even exist in English until the 1600s. So none of the early church fathers ever knew him as Jesus. They knew him as Yeshua. And so we introduced the word Yeshua all throughout the Gospels because there's a lot of things that people need to realize that are authentic. And so that's what we wanted to do.
So I looked through the book. Actually, I read a lot of it. I want you guys to see, first of all, I love the colors. It has, this is a scene from a synagogue. Is that an assembly?
Amazing. Can you believe it? They met in synagogues. What a shock. There was no Catholic church. There was no Catholic church.
I know. It might be a shock to some people. So it has beautiful pictures. For example, in the book of Matthew, the feeding of the 5,000, the picture is beautiful. Then you have the picture in the book of Luke, there's the Annunciation. In Mark, the triumphal entry. I love that one. And in John, the disciples' foot washing. And that was an incredible picture. I noticed that I've never seen these images before, right? Jesus, the depiction of what Jesus looks like is he's just very handsome, right? Has this look on his face. It's like there's authority mixed with love and grace and happiness and joy. I mean, it's just, I found it just beautiful. There are a lot of unique pictures, and I'm reading my notes in each chapter. But there are then some videos. The videos, I've never seen them before, and it brings the Bible to life because first of all, you're reading in Hebrew, which to some of us is a dream come true. But then as you're reading, if you click on the QR code with your phone camera, this picture comes alive, and it just took my breath away. Tell me about that.
Well, isn't that fun? I mean, most people have never seen a book come alive, but there are QR codes where there's video of me popping up and teaching for 10
Yes.
minutes. Well, there's little QR codes with an audio, and they literally can hear me giving revelation about a better understanding of the verse. But I love the pictures the most, because the reason why is I think a lot of young adults, teenagers, will get involved with the Bible again. I think having something, they already have the phone in their hand anyway, let's make it useful. And so I really find this is something that is going to attract a lot of the youth back to the Bible.
Yeah, I thought it was inspirational. For example, there's a video when the Holy Spirit descends on Jesus at the Jordan River. You have got to see it. I want to encourage you to purchase this book. It is an amazing book. The content is extraordinary, but the pictures and the videos are just superb. There's another video that I absolutely loved. That's when they go out on the boat.
Oh, don't you love that?
And the sound.
Yeah, there's sound with it.
It's not just a video, it has sound, and the effects of that as you're reading the Word of God in the Hebrew language is just an incredible experience. It's fun.
Well, it makes people realize that everything in the New Testament was Jewish. And to me, I want authenticity. So I want people to really understand the Jewishness of the day, and having it in Hebrew, of course, in English as well, that really helps people understand what it was really like.
I want to ask you something. I have found, for example, when we talk about the millennial temple and when we talk about the millennial reign of Christ, I have found that a lot of Christians have a hard time connecting to those things because they think or they perceive that as something that's Jewish.
Right.
And if it's Jewish, you've learned about the Jewish religion and all that stuff. And it's like, it doesn't go with what we believe. It's different than Christianity. Can you tell me, how can we take that out of the equation and have people understand or help them understand that the things that are coming also belong to the church? The temple belongs to the church, the millennial reign. How do we overcome that?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people think we're just going to float on clouds or something for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
No, we're going to rule and reign with the Messiah right here on earth. And can you imagine what it would be like? Think about this. It's like there'll be aliens here because all of us will have a new body. Okay, but there's going to be humans who survived the tribulation that are normal, and we'll be interacting together on the same planet at the same time. And the reason for this is, if you remember, Satan was in a perfect environment when he fell. God wants to replicate that. So every human on earth will understand. Here, God himself will be on earth for 1,000 years. And we find at the very end, people still rebel. The final Gog and Magog war. How in the world can they still rebel? And so God needs us here because we're to be lights to the world. He doesn't want to just be here himself with a bunch of pagans. And so we're going to have a lot of unbelievers during the 1,000-year reign. And so that is why he needs us here too, to be his administrators and, be lights here on earth, because it's going to be very important that people realize they have a free will. A lot of people think, well, if they just saw a miracle, then they'd believe in God. Never works. The Exodus generation was known as a generation of no faith, and they saw more miracles than anybody. And in Jesus' generation, it was a generation of no faith, and they saw the Messiah himself doing miracles.
Yeah.
And so the whole purpose of the millennial reign is to show humanity that even with God among us on earth, people are still going to rebel. Because when the new heavens and the new earth comes, he doesn't want this to ever happen again. And I don't know if you've caught this, you may probably have, But the last verse in Isaiah 66 says, because we still have a free will,
Yeah.
it says every week and every month, God's going to have all of humanity come and look into hell. That's what it says. They're going to
Wow.
see the worm that doesn't die and the fire that isn't quenched, because we will have a free will. And he does not want to have happen what happened when Satan fell. And so he wants everyone that's going to be with him for eternity to understand. So this really is for both groups. It's for the believer who has taken out and has a new creation. We can see the importance of doing what he says. And then it's also for humans on earth to have a chance where they will have no justification of why they rebel, because God himself is going to be ruling and reigning.
Wow, that is so powerful. I find very interesting that at this point, we all know that the second coming of the Lord is at hand.
Yes.
Everything is talking and saying, absolutely everything, society, everything. So I find incredible that so many people resist the idea that the millennial reign of Christ is coming. It's like, you know what? I need to pay my rent. I need to put food on the table. I don't have time for this nonsense. If it comes, and I'll think about it later. You know what I'm saying? And it's
absolutely.
I have such a burden with that in my heart. I want people to know what's coming because it brings hope.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think the big problem is there are so many narcissists among Christianity. They think it's all about them. They don't even think about how they can help the kingdom. They don't even think how they can help one another. It's all about me. And that's the biggest problem within the church today. So many people want to run and hide or be out of here. For me, it's, hey, this is the Super Bowl of human history. Put me in the game, coach. Hey, well, we're all going to die anyway. I don't want to go down swinging. I don't want to go down hiding behind a rock.
I agree with that. I love that. Yeah. This is why books like this one, it's so important. It teaches us, it corrects the things that we've been taught that are wrong. But it also connects us because it's one thing to read the pages of a regular Bible and use your imagination to picture what's going on, and another to see a dove coming down and caressing Jesus on his face, and just, oh my goodness, what a tender video, what a tender moment, right? I had never pictured it like that. And I had to stop and say, I want to soak in this moment because this is the way that the Spirit of God treats me.
Yeah, exactly.
How about that?
Well, see, I think for the first time, the Bible will really make connections with people. I think they'll be more attached to reading. It's an easy read. We got rid of all the archaic King James, these and thous and triest and doest.
Hallelujah.
But then on top of that, the changes we've made and the things people learn from it are really amazing. And I find people are really going to interact with this like never before.
I agree with you. I have another question, and I'm sure you're going to maybe even correct me, but most of the times when we talk about these four ancient books, the Gospels, it's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. However, your book starts with the Gospel of John. Can you tell us why?
Absolutely. There's several reasons. One of them, for a lot of new believers, everyone tells them to start with John, because it's really about relationships. But the most important reason is, as we know, Genesis in the beginning is the very first book. And so in the Gospels, John begins with in the beginning. And so there was no authorized order because Mark was written before Matthew anyway. So there isn't any sanctified order of how they're to be.
Of course.
And I don't know if you knew this, but you want to hear something funny?
Yes.
My name is Mark Matthew Luke Biltz.
Ooh. Mark Matthew Luke Biltz.
Yeah, Luke was my confirmation name. I was raised Catholic. So it's Mark
Aw,
Matthew Biltz. But
that's
anyway,
nice.
so I put John first just because John is so magnificent and there's so much going on that will really connect people. And because it starts with, in the beginning was the essence, more than just word. We corrected that because when you think of a word, you see something written or just hearing someone speak. But it was divine. It was the very essence of God. And that is huge. He's more than just the word.
Wow. I was praying last night and saying, Lord, I don't want to sound like I don't know what I'm doing here. There has to be a very special reason. So I'm going to dare why John first? Actually, I thought at first that you had written the book like the Jews do it from right to left, and then I said no, but that doesn't make sense. This is so I went through this thing quite a few times last night.
John starts with in the beginning, and so we wanted to start in the beginning with him.
I find that beautiful. I think it's incredible. I also enjoyed very much the QR codes where you come up with additional information, because at the end of the day, the purpose of reading a book as such is to learn. Exactly. And you have this information that you bring to the table to enhance not only the experience, but also the knowledge that we're receiving. And I thought that was fantastic.
Well, thank you. I mean, the one thing that always amazed me is when Peter denies the Messiah and a rooster crows 3 times, it never happened. The rooster was a title given to a priest. And so when it talks about the rooster crowing, it actually was a priest with the title of rooster who called out 3 times every morning for everyone to come begin the morning service.
That's incredible. I remember, I learned that. I already knew that because you've said that before. Who do you think Jesus claimed to be?
Well, he definitely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, claimed to be divine. As a matter of fact, throughout the Bible, it uses the word son of man, Ben Adam. But every time he was talking about himself, it would be Ben Ha-Adam. He's not a son of man. He is the son of man, just like a king versus the king. And so he all through, he was claiming divinity, and it is obvious. But there are several things that we bring out.
And this is the reason why the Pharisees, for example, would trying to kill him, because they understood
exactly
very well what he was saying.
No, exactly. There's one of the, I don't know if you've got to this one yet, but one of the interesting stories, and you'd wonder why in the world were the Herodians and the Sadducees so upset when on the Sabbath, Jesus heals a man. He told him to stretch forth his hand. He had a withered hand. You probably remember that story. Mm-hmm. But why in the world, after healing a guy, would everyone want to kill him? I mean, that's pretty over the top to want to kill somebody. So there had to be more of a story. Well, there is, because he was proving he was God. And here's how. If you remember, many people may not know, but Nisan 14 is Passover. The very next day, Nisan 15, is the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and it's a Sabbath. The very last day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread is also a Sabbath. So what do we find happen? In this story, the man with the withered hand, Yeshua stands up and, Yeshua says, stand up and stretch forth your hand. Well, when you're reading, and every one of these religious leaders knew the story because they've been doing the Exodus story for 1,500 years. And what does God tell Moses to do? He tells him to stretch forth his hand. All through the Exodus, with every plague, he tells Moses, stretch forth your hand. At the Red Sea, he says, stretch forth your hand. Well, guess what? They left carrying all their goods on the Sabbath. Nissan 15 was the first day of unleavened bread, and they're loaded with all of their goods, and they're walking for miles.
That was forbidden.
And then what happens? They crossed the Red Sea literally on the last day, which was another Sabbath. And so they're trying to use Moses against Yeshua. And so Yeshua, he has the man with the withered hand be Moses. And he is God telling the withered man, stretch forth your hand. And then it gets healed. And so they were so upset because he also called them the hard-hearted Pharisees. And so he's talked about how he couldn't believe what a hard heart they had. So the whole story is telling us he's accusing them of being hard-hearted Egyptians. The man with the withered hand is Moses, and he plays the role of God, telling the man with the withered hand to stretch forth his hand, which is exactly what happened on the Sabbath in Moses' day. God allowed the Sabbath to be broken to save lives. And that's what it is all about. And so they had a misunderstanding of the Sabbath. And within Judaism, they say you can break every law of the Sabbath to preserve life. And so they had a total misrepresentation. Jesus wasn't trying to do away with the Sabbath. He is the Lord of the Sabbath. And he's proving how there are things on the Sabbath that you can break if it comes to saving life.
I'm speechless. That's just incredibly powerful. And there are so many people bound with the laws of the Sabbath, not understanding.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's supposed to be a time of joy. It's supposed to be a time of relationship. It's supposed to be a time of fun and play and be with the family. I mean, what family doesn't want to spend time together as a unity? Typically, the typical family, so many of them today are so dysfunctional, they're all over the place. But the idea of the Sabbath is everyone to come together and care for one another. Get your eyes off yourself and love one another in the family.
I understood early on when I gave my heart to the Lord that the Sabbath had a design for the family.
Exactly.
It's a design to bring the family to the table, to relax, enjoy a meal, talk about what transpired throughout the week, and maybe talk about what we're going to do tomorrow. And, we've lost that. Our society has lost that.
They don't know how to stop and smell the roses. They don't know how to just rest, and then enjoy each other.
I've been talking a lot about this at church. I had a guest that spoke about the meaning of Sabbath and how the Lord is calling us to have downtime, rest away from the phone, maybe go and do some gardening or anything around the house that can help you relax your mind, your nerves, you know what I'm saying? We've lost all of that. And I see it as a beautiful design. The Lord knew what was coming. And it's a beautiful design for us to say, you know what? It's Friday night. Let's just gather around the table. Let's talk. Put the phone away. Let's have some dessert afterwards and just chill and enjoy each other's company. And I think that's such an important concept to bring back to the family structure. And we see Jesus talking about the Sabbath and battling with these people who want to bring all these
legalistic
rules.
laws. Yeah.
All these rules.
There's another famous story that everyone misunderstands, and it's the Samaritan woman at the well who had 5 husbands, and the one that she was with wasn't her husband, and everyone misconstrues her as some horrible lady, but she's one of the most holy, righteous women in the whole New Testament.
Can you talk a little bit about her?
Yeah. Well, the reason I say that, number one, she was religious. She worships God, maybe on the wrong mountain, but what church doesn't have doctrine screwed up? Okay. And so here she's looking for the Messiah. Wow. And she knows the Messiah is coming. She has credibility. All the Samaritans believe what she says. And so this is not a evil, wicked woman. As a matter of fact, as you probably very well know, do women have any rights in the Middle East? How about 2,000 years ago?
Even less.
Could a woman get a divorce, or was she stuck?
She was stuck.
Okay. And it's one thing to be single and committing adultery, or fornication, whatever you want to call it, but it's another thing to be married. The fact that she's had 5 husbands proves she wasn't committing adultery, because she'd have been stoned by now. And so what we find is women back then, they had no rights, 0 rights. If they didn't have a father, brother, nephew, uncle, someone to take them in when her husband dies, she's on the streets. They couldn't even work. And so the fact that she had 5 husbands tells us she's been dumped 5 times. She's been rejected by 5 guys. They don't want her as a wife. And the one she's with at least loves her enough to protect her, but not enough to marry her. And so it has nothing to do with any immorality at all. And if you remember in the story, the first things he tells Jesus is, you Jews reject us. So that says the whole theme is about rejection. And where are they at? They're in Shechem. This is where Joseph is buried, who was rejected by all of his brethren. So this whole story is about a woman who was rejected by everybody. And we know Messiah is the man of rejection. So he's trying to relate to her. So why do all the women reject her? Why isn't she there at 9 a.m. in the cool of the day with all the women? Why is she there at noon in the heat of the day? And when Yeshua tells her he'll give her water, she'll never have to thirst again, she goes, give me this water. I don't want to come back to this stinking place, because every time I do, I'm reminded how rejected I am. So the moral of the story is this poor lady couldn't get pregnant. It's all about an heir. It's about the land. So 5 men have dumped her because she can't have kids. Wow. And so now what happens, this is why all the women reject her, just like Hagar harassed Sarah and Hannah, the mother of Samuel. She doesn't want to go there early in the day, because all she hears is everyone, talking about how God doesn't love her, or what has she done wrong? And she hasn't done anything wrong. And so what we see here that the Jews reject her, the men reject her, women reject her. She believes God has rejected her. And so what does Yeshua do? He gives her the honor of being the first one to take the gospel to the nations in all of history. And what happens when the fields are white in the harvest? He tells everyone, he says, look, Samaritans for 3,000 years have always worn white garments. He was pointing at the Samaritans coming in white that were about to be harvested into the kingdom. So here it is a woman, a non-Jew, who is the first one to take the gospel to the nations.
That's beautiful.
She gets honored for that. Now that just totally turns the whole story around. And throughout the Gospels, that's what I do for everybody. The audios, the videos is me telling stories to turn everything on its head in the Gospels.
Wow, that is so incredibly important. I think this book is going to change a lot of lives, and we're going to look at the Gospels and understand the words that Jesus spoke and the things that transpired with the different characters that we see throughout his walk, right?
Yes.
Look, the Samaritan woman being one of them. We all think she's a harlot. We all think she's a terrible person, the scum of the earth. Don't touch me. Don't come near me. And yet Jesus sees something totally different.
Yeah, that's why I want authenticity. But the other thing is, when you know the Jewish culture, everything comes to life again. Like in John chapter 7, you're familiar with it's the Feast of Tabernacles. Okay, which we just got done celebrating. And in John 7, it talks about on the last day of the feast, how Yeshua stood up and cried out, if any man thirst, let him come after me, and out of his belly will flow rivers of living waters. And it said that Jesus stood and he cried this out. But guess what happened? The very moment that he said that, everyone in the temple was singing Isaiah 12. Okay? There's only one verse in the Bible that is repeated in the Torah, the prophets, and the writings, and it's where they crossed the Red Sea, and God is my joy. He's the strength of my salvation. Okay, that one. And with joy will you draw water from the wells of salvation. Well, right when they sang, where it says, with joy shall you draw water from the wells of salvation, well, that's Jesus' name, Yeshua. Okay, salvation is Yeshua. So right when they sang that, he yells out, yes, as the scripture says that you just sang, I'm the well. Okay, but they had to finish that song, and Isaiah 12 is, cry out, you inhabitant of Jerusalem, because the Lord your God is standing in your midst. Go back, look at Isaiah 12. The last verse they had to finish the song was, shout, O inhabitant of Zion, because the Lord your God is in your midst.
Wow.
I mean,
and there he was.
There he was.
See, you miss all of that if you don't really know the backdrop of the Jewish culture and what was really happening. Wow, that really, it brings the word, it's like alive. It's like it changes everything. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Now I get it. Now I understand. Now I see what's actually happening and everything, and how Jesus, being such an intentional person.
Of course.
Everything was perfectly, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess everything fell into place in a way where nothing was wasted and everything had meaning. Everything had meaning. Everything had depth. Everything was intentional for people to understand, hey, everything that you've been reading for 1,500 years points to me.
Yeah,
Talks about me. And as we celebrate Jesus this year, I think it's important that we bring him to the forefront of the gospel. Sometimes people get tangled in so many other things, the 5 steps to becoming wealthy, or 10 keys to becoming more spiritual, or whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm talking about. But I think this time, as his return approaches faster and faster, we need to look at Jesus.
Absolutely. That's the key. Again, we always focus on ourselves rather than on him and what he's trying to accomplish. I mean, if you join the military as a soldier, do you just do what you want to do, or do you have to take orders and do what the boss wants you to do? Or even in a job, so, but I think a lot of times people don't see themselves as in the Lord's army.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you know what? A picture comes to mind when Peter is telling Jesus that you are the Messiah.
I love those pictures. Oh my gosh, you're right. I can see it in my eye, exactly the picture you're talking about.
Right? He is, and Jesus is just standing there listening to this man say, oh my goodness, I'm in front of God. I'm standing in front of God, the maker of heaven and earth. He's right here in front of me, and I can recognize him. And Jesus is very calm. What an incredible picture. And how can I bring that to my life? I want to do that. Yeah. I want to be a Peter and say, you're the Son of God. I know who you are. And it's beautiful to contemplate the things that you do, your kingdom, the things that are to come, the millennial reign, where everything is going to go back to the original design. Everything is going to flourish. Everything is going to talk about him. I think we need to get to that point where the gospel and Christianity is not about us, what I can get out of it, but about him.
Exactly. That's the thing, is we have to learn how to put into relationships, not always to be like a tick and see what we can get out of it.
I love that. I love what you've done. I can't wait to hear about the next book. You said there were 3 books in total, correct?
Yes, all the Pauline epistles. everything else, and then the Gospels
Wow. So this is the first of
of the 3 volumes.
3 books that we will definitely talk about, dissect, and promote, because I want people to learn. I want people in this age of information. There's so much information. It's an overload of
I
information
know.
everywhere. We need truth.
That's exactly what we need. That is
We need
exactly
truth.
what we need. Yep.
And this book is going to help us. It's going to bring revelation. It's going to enlighten us. It's going to teach us. It's going to correct a lot of things that have been misunderstood or maybe taught incorrectly. And in my opinion, and you guys know that I love books and I love to study, but this book, we are going to put it, we're going to put the cover of the book at the end of the program. And we're also going to put the information for Pastor Mark's ministry so that you can reach out to him. You can sign up. You can see all his teachings. You observe the Sabbath
Absolutely.
and you teach on the Sabbath. Do you, right?
Absolutely. And I teach on Sundays all over the world and all of the United States too.
Hats off.
You know,
So-
one thing, if you want to, you can hold the book up where everyone can see the QR code, and at their home, they literally can see what we're talking about because they'll be able to put their phone up to the QR code and they'll see the video of me talking. So that'll give them so anyone who's looking right now can see what we're talking about. So there you go.
It's a work of art. It's a must-have. This book is a must-have. And I guarantee you it will have the same effect it had on me. It brought joy to my heart as I was reading, as I was looking at the pictures and looking at the videos. It is just absolutely beautiful. Pastor Mark, I want to thank you so very much for giving us time to do this. I know you're very busy. You're going to be traveling very soon to Israel as well. May the Lord protect you, keep you, bring you back home safe
thank
and
you.
sound. And may the purpose for this trip be fulfilled. It's
Thank
such a blessing to spend this little time with you.
Well, it's a blessing spending time with you.
Thank you.
Take care.
So I hope to see you soon. We'll be in touch. God bless you. Have a blessed day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.